I am short of words to express my sorrow and grief on this an occasion that marks the 76th anniversary of the tragic incident of Babra. The incident of Babra that took place on the 12th of August 1948 was such a tragedy that was never expected of a nation state that has been gained its independence only 1 year ahead of this incident. The acts on the unarmed and barehanded protesters, the way they were treated, and the way they were massacred, I just fail to understand as to what was the logic behind it. The incident of Babra, it is one of the darkest history of our country, for the basic reason that a country which has been established 1 year ahead to it, and this is how they treat the people, and this is how they refuse to accept the protest of the people, is something, it is very astonishing. The Babra has got a very dark, gloomy history behind it. It is an event that has killed the parents, the mother, the father, the children, the females, who are still lingering, and the sad memories of the event are still fresh in their mind. It is very unfortunate that in a state that was created on the name of Islam, and it was claimed that it would be run according to the principles of Islam, and this is how they contradict their claim. It is very much specifically clear that whatever happened, that was an intentional act of the state. Taking the opportunity, I will just try to place before the common man who might not have the idea as to what the Babra was and what was behind this an incident, for the specific reason that the history of the Khudai Khizmatkars has been not at all in any way shown to the people. They have only shown that history in the social studies which come to their rescue, and they have not at all shown that history, but rather they have scratched it from the pages of the history. This is another thinking that I feel that again this an act is totally supposed to be discarded. When the 1946 elections were held under the 1935 Act, it so happened that the Khudai Khizmatkars, who were a part of the All India Congress, they secured about 30 seats in a house of 50 seats. It was a very clear majority for them, and as a matter of fact, Dr. Khan Sahib was elevated to the Prime Minister's office, and he made his own government. Then it so happened that when the 3rd June plan of Lord Mountbatten was announced, all of a sudden, in a hasty manner, the subcontinent was supposed to be partitioned. And one of the most astonishing factor was that all those provinces which had elections in 1948, they got the authoritative to just put up their choice as to which country they would like to join. So were given the consents to all those states which were in Indo-Pak subcontinent. NWFP was the only province in which, despite the fact that the majority government of the Khudai Khizmat Guard or the All India Congress was working over there, and an election was already held in 1946. So the stand of the Khudai Khizmat Guards was that, well, already the elections have been held and the people have given their consent. So why is there any need of a referendum? And if there is any a need of the referendum, then let it be between India, Pakistan, and an autonomous Pashtun state. This was the only stance which the Khudai Khizmat Guards took, for the specific reason that Pakistan government were not accepting them. The Congress had already left them in a halfway. So what was the outlet for the Khudai Khidmat Gar? So they just gave an option, but that was not at all accepted to the colonist. As a matter of fact, the referendum of the NWFP was started on the 7th of July and the results were announced on the 20th of July 1947. Some 3 weeks before the partition of the subcontinent. In the referendum, the Khudai Khizmat Gar, they boycotted it, and it was a very low input in the votes that were cast, but still, for the reason that the Khudai Khizmat Gar, they had already boycotted the elections, so they went through this process. After that, it so happened that Mr. Jinnah all the while was stressing on the Governor Mountbatten that you should just dismiss the ministry of Dr. Khan. But Lord Mountbatten, for the specific reason that whatever it was, but at least he was observing the democratic principles, and he told Mr. Jinnah that I can't, for the specific reason that one, they have got a majority in the assembly, and the second was that there is no law and order situation at all. So he refused. But again, it so happened that under the 1935 Act, there was a section 93 of that Act which gave power to the Governor General of the India as well as Pakistan, that they could ask the governor to dismiss the legislature or to dismiss the minister, prime minister, the minister, Dr. Khan Sahib, for the reason. So that it how Mr. Jinnah, he just inserted this section and he directed Lord Mountbatten to dismiss the ministry of Dr. Khan Sahib, and he went ahead with it. Once the ministry was dismissed, then on the 22nd of August, the ministry was dismissed, and on the 23rd of June, Mr. Qayyum Kashmiri, he was elevated and he was asked to form a ministry. But it is again a very surprising issue that Qayyum Kashmiri was given a 6 months time till the time the budget is placed in the assembly, and he gained that time and he just took the other members into confidence and he created a majority for himself. Now, for this curtailment of the democratic rights of the Khudai Khizmat Gars, the constitution obligations that were smashed to the grounds, and the unconstitutional acts that were taking place, the Khudai Khizmat Gars, they just announced that they will just take a procession against these, and the protest will be of the nature that it will be fully a non-violent approach. On the 12th of August, just simply 2 ahead, what a pity that on the 14th of the August, you are celebrating the Independence Day. On 2 days ahead to that, you are crushing the poor people for reason that was not at all invited in any manner. When the Khudai Khizmatgar, they came and they just took the march and they came to the Babara, Mr. Qayyum, along with the forces, was already prepared for their shooting, and that took place. The tragedy is that the shooting was unannounced. The second is that all who were protesting, they were peacefully protesting. The third is that they were not at all taking the law and order into their hands. They were not attacking any buildings. They were not attacking any government establishments. They were simply trying to register their protest, which they had every right under the Constitution and under the norms of a civilized society. I just can't express myself, for the reason that when I just think the way the people were shot, the way the women folk, they came out from their houses with Quran on their heads, with children in their laps, without any distinction, each and every act they performed, and it was a free for all, and they were just celebrating it as if this is the 14th of August. People fell, people were killed. One martyr, the first one, Spin Malang of Babda, who was the first Shaheed in this incident, he was shot. When his two small brothers tried to just drag his body from the ground, they were stopped by the forces. And they were specifically told that he is fined 80 rupees for the reason that this is the assessment of the bullets that we have used to kill him. So, Spin Malang and the rest of the family members, they on the spur of the moment, they mortgaged their house and paid the fine, and as a matter of fact, they took Spin Malang to their house. Similarly, each and every, about 600 corpses were taken from the Babra, and each and every one was fined. They were not given any treatment in the hospitals. Tens of corpses were thrown to the river, and they were stopped even to just perform the namaz-e-janaza of these people. This is how the barbarous act of Mr. Qayyum has shown that this is how the Islamic State of Pakistan they initiated to run. Now the question is that, first of all, under the democratics and the norms of democracy, any majority party that has got a majority share in the government, who has secured a majority votes in the government, they are supposed to be having the consent of the people. The Khudai Khizmatgars who had gathered at the Babda ground, they had the consent of the people because in 1946 they have formed a majority government. So I feel that this was a genocide of the Pashtuns. The Pashtuns were massacred, they were genocide under the United Nations Act of 1948. The genocide law is equally applicable on all the forces, including the state that they should tender an apology for that massacre, for this maltreatment of the people that has taken place at Babra. In Jallianwala Bagh, on the 11th of April 1919, 379 people were killed. And in Babra, 650 people were killed. When the 100 years of the Jallianwala Bagh, and Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of Britain, she went for the celebration, followed by Mr. Cameron, the next Prime Minister. They tendered an apology to the Indian government. It was a state apology that, well, we regret. We totally are sorry for it. I say that the state must tender an apology for this an act that has taken place against the Khudai Khizmatgars. Let me make a distinction over here that we have got so many tragic history. We have got the Qissa Khani massacre, we have got the Bazar-e-Kalam massacre, we have got the Spin Tangi massacre, Tucker, so many massacres. But that were done by the colonists. We have a right against them also, but that were an act of the colonist against whom we were against. This is an act for all practical purpose, in all legal, constitutional and the norms of a civilized society, the conscience of a people, that this act was performed by the state. So the state must tender an apology. Not only an apology, but those people who have been killed in Babra, they should be declared as shaheeds, because there was no reason behind their killings. What was the mistake of the Khudai Khizmatkar? Because they were protesting. On the 9th of May, a man over here says that he was mishandled, so he will ask an apology from the establishment. And the establishment says that till time he tenders an apology, we are not there to come into any agreement. Now look at this stance and the stance of the Pashtuns against whom such a savage act has been performed. I feel that to solace the feelings, to appeal to the conscience of the heirs of the Babra massacres, their widows, maybe they are living, their sons, their grandsons. This is a type of solace that I feel that the state is under a liability, under an obligation, that they should specifically declare them to be the shaheeds, and as a matter of fact, whatever injustices has been done against them, that should be given away. Lastly, on this an occasion, I tender all the honors. I salute the Khudai Khizmatkar of Babra for this an act, for this a sacrifice which has got no equal. In the non-violent history of the world, the Badshah Khan and the Khudai Khizmatgars have played such a role that I personally feel that the role is of the nature, that it should be remembered for all times. They were heroes of all times, and they shall be heroes for time immemorial. Thank you.